that seem to be more on the, let's see, this one over here, on the side of like, how do we get people to do this? How do we make sure we can actually get materials from people, incentivize them, and generate interest of people to collect their waste, or recyclables rather. And some of the things that well, first of all, is that accurate?
Yeah. Yes, that's accurate.
Okay, great. And some of the things that I'm most interested in with this community, like the community, like managing materials or recyclables within the community, that deals more with the demand, the other side of the demand aspect. How do we generate value? Like, once we get the material, how can we get the most value out of it? How can we turn it into something useful, or including selling it to somebody else, and generating income that way. So that's a part that I'm really interested in. And when I thought about, like, there are a lot of things that I would like to do in the remaining like 5.5 months that I have here. But one of the main things that I think I would be very sad if I didn't do, or regret not trying, is really exploring and fleshing out this idea of, or this hypothesis that waste can be managed more locally, and that demand can be created for products more locally. So I would want to focus on that. So how can we create value from the materials we collect? Which materials can be profitable, and how profitable can they be? So those are the kinds of questions that I would be most interested in. Yeah. So far, what questions do you have?
So I think that we are on the same page when we look at how we can create value. Because for me, I also believe that the waste problem can actually be tackled when people started seeing value for the waste being generated. That is where they are going to get more interested in how to dispose it properly, so that they can continue to sustain that value that it creates for them. So we figuring out questions on how we can create value locally. That is a good idea that we need to be able to talk of. So with the idea that you have to, thinking about how we can manage the waste locally within the community. Yeah. So now the big that is our biggest assumption. Now the big question is how are we going to get a place and how to manage the waste locally within the community. That is one thing that we need to be thinking about, getting the space and how to be able to put up some sort of facility in order to start processing the materials that we collect locally and bring it in, make it as a useful product. That is one thing that we need to be also thinking about, because most of the communities that we have visited now, a lot of them, their major challenge is also space. So how do we navigate through about such a problem? Who do we need to have to? Do we need to go and talk with the local chiefs? Do we need to speak with assemblyman and figure out how best we can be able to get a space in terms of testing these ideas? And one thing that I think that would be useful, that was the idea that Solomon shared, that when they started piloting their project and in Jamestown, after the closure of the nearest dumping site, he thought if they could get escape I think if we also have to start thinking about how do we get escape to the operational area that we wanted to test this idea in, so that we can be able to get the waste collected very fast and be able to dispose it off early.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up, and it is a big assumption for sure. So my thoughts on that and things that we can test with that are, well, first, I believe that it is possible, but needs to be tested.
Yes.
Or B, it's also an issue of profitability and how much it costs, because space is only an issue insofar as how much it costs, because there is space there if you're willing to pay for it.
Yes, but I think that will not even cost much, but getting the other facilities in terms of maybe the skip and all those things, I don't know how the arrangement could be in order to get it much easier. So that's one thing that.
Yeah. When you say skip, you're talking about like a transfer vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I have thoughts about that, but still it's all up in the air. A couple of thoughts about it. I think 2 or 3 thoughts. One, back on the space thing, if we can show that our model will clean up an area, I think assemblymen or the local chief, I think they would be delighted to work with us. Like, you need a small space to handle this stuff. Great. If it's going to clean up the community, great. We'll figure out something that works. That's a huge assumption, but seems like it would be beneficial to them. Another thing that I've thought about is velocity. How do we get more velocity in getting materials through? So, for example, composting. Sometimes some composting methods can take up to like 3 to 6 months, but I've
3 to 6 weeks or 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. So some processes can take a really long time. I don't know that we asked. Did Solomon tell us how long his takes?
Yeah, I think he was saying that some takes 3 to 6 weeks for them to be able to prepare.
Yeah. And so that would be what we would go after. There are methods that I've been looking up this week, and that I will talk to a former coworker of mine about, who actually started a composting company in Utah, and did very well with it. There are methods that can bring that down to like 2 to 3 weeks, which would be super important to making a model work, because that would drastically reduce the amount of space that is needed. So there are things like that's the second point. Third point about a skip. Yeah, I've thought about it, and it may be required for some portions of the waste stream. I'm really interested in looking at how we can do as much, if we can do as much of it as possible within the community. Like, only sending stuff outside of the community if it is unsustainable or unprofitable to handle it within the community. Along with that, I would also like to explore, instead of looking at how can we get this stuff out of the community, I would like to explore how can we get somebody else to take it out of the community. So for example, if we're making compost or some type of or we have plastics to recycle that we're collecting, instead of us having a skip or a truck or a tricycle or something like that and having that additional cost, how can we make it attractive for somebody else, the farmer, to arrange the logistics for it so that we don't even have to handle that, and somebody else handles it? Or the person collecting the plastic, they want our plastic because it's whatever, like, for whatever reason, and so they're willing to get it. Once again, big assumptions that we'll be able to do that, but I would like to explore those things because I think it would simplify our model and
also reduce the cost.
And reduce the cost and the cost, and especially the upfront cost, which upfront cost presents a lot more risk and uncertainty. So those are some of my thoughts of that. You can ask more questions and things. I'm going to move on just for a second to talk about my thought for Vivian. I need to talk with her about this still, but my thought for her, she's talked a lot about this like responsibility, ownership aspect, or responsibility and education. And that seems to be something that she's interested in and sees potential in. And I think it will be a critical part of a model, of a solution. So for her, I'll talk with her about this, and if you have thoughts about it, then I'd love to hear them. But have her explore questions like what is the best way to generate community, a feeling of community and ownership, or well, that's the first way of putting it. Also, what is the best way to educate people about properly separating their waste? Or more broadly, just how to get people to properly separate their waste. So those are more education questions and assumptions and things that would need to be figured out. So I plan to talk with her about tackling and addressing those. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good area that we need to also explore very well, because when Solomon was talking to us, he said because they involve the people at every stage of their research, and before introducing the solution to them, they became interested in the program, and they are willing to cooperate with them. So if we get people create that sense of feeling of community ownership, then people will be more interested to be able to accept the solution that we are proposing, and whatever cost that comes with the solution that we are proposing to them, they might be willing to also pay. So I think it's a good idea that we need to also explore very well.
Yeah, I agree. So I can talk with her about that. Yeah, so those are a few of the things that I've been thinking about to help us really move forward. Not we will definitely have to talk to each other, and our work is definitely like totally integrated with each other.
Yes.
Make sure we're always on the same page about what we're testing and things. But dividing it up like this, I think, will allow us to do more, be clearer about what we're trying to do, rather than like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, which I'm sure that has been, I'm sure you felt that sometimes, because I have felt that, and and I'm the one that's supposed to, well, I feel like I'm supposed to know what's going on. So, yeah. So we can talk about this more on Monday in our meeting. But do you have questions or other things that you would like to talk about right now?
So right now, I wanted to know, as you talk about a pilot started prototyping with a solution in terms of pamphlet, which area do you think that we are going to set up our first prototype? Which community are we taking into consideration in this case?
I am most strongly considering Mamobi.
Mamobi.
but that is what I'm most strongly considering. However, some of these things can probably be tested anywhere, depending on what we're prototyping, depending on what we're testing, what aspect of it. And if you, I can give you a few of my thoughts behind that if you would like.
Yeah. I'm interested.
And it's nothing particularly scientific about coming, like why Mamobee. There are some things that I think make it a good candidate for it. Just the nature of their waste problems, with like a lot of their waste problems there are gutters and burning rather than like a beach dump site or something like that. There is quite a bit of, I don't know, there's quite a bit of interest everywhere, really. Basically, it is, aside from it being like the issues with the gutters and largely serviced by containers, it's near where, well, it's where a lot of the members of my ward live. It is accessible. It's kind of in the middle of all of us, which isn't particularly helpful to you or Vivian, who don't actually live close to it. But also, I now have at least something of a relationship with the assemblyman here and the sanitation director. And the U.S. Embassy is planning a large event, a community cleanup event in conjunction with Mamobee and the area around the polyclinic, like where Jonathan stays, for early May.
Okay.
Which will just lend itself, so that will be, U.S. Embassy is going to, so there will be hopefully like 20 people who work at the U.S. Embassy, so 20 like Americans coming together with community members from that area of Mamobee to clean up some of the area and to provide awareness and education about alternative ways of managing waste, and generating publicity and media around it. So to me, I just see that as a good opportunity to kind of kickstart something, because we're already plugged in with the local leaders, and have this event going on. So like I said, not really scientific reasons or anything like that. But those are some of my thoughts. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I think yeah, even in that area, since that we are also looking at the organic waste turning into compost. Most of the people in Nima Mamobee, there are a lot of food vendors over there. Yeah, so getting organic waste in terms of food waste, we can rely on most of these food vendors around, and to be able to collect this waste from them and then be able to process it into compost. So I think it's a good assumption that we are making, and we can still go there.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, anything else that you'd like to talk about?
No, for now, I don't have anything else that I'm still doing some research online, trying to figure out what are some of the things going on. I'm looking into what goes into biodegradable plastics, and trying to figure out if there is any solutions that can fit into our model, so that I can pick that solution on Monday.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. On Monday, my tentative plan for the meeting would be to just discuss ways that we can each discuss each of our workflows, our questions, and make sure we're each equipped to answer the questions, that we know or have a rough idea of, how to find good information online, if that is an issue, or how to find good information from people talking about, and we'll discuss a little bit of prototyping, although I would expect to dive more into that the following week. And just so you know, my wife and I are not going to be in Accra Tuesday through, well, most of next week. We'll be here on Monday. Then we're going on a little trip to the northern region Tuesday through Friday, I guess. So yeah, so I'll be away for part of next week, just so you know.
Okay. All right.
And then the following week, Monday is Easter Monday. And so we'll probably plan on, if you're able to meet on Tuesday that week instead, then we could meet on Tuesday.
Yes, it's Tuesday will be good.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. So maybe if you have something.
No, I think I've covered everything. But whenever you have thoughts about what we should, if you think that we should be doing different things than we're doing, or anything like that, then you can always feel free to yeah. Oh, I did have one more question just to be thinking about. So early on, when we were more heavily in the problem, like researching the problem and behavior, we had talked about presenting potentially to Zoomline or different a few different people. What are your thoughts about, I guess, the final outcome at the end of the 3-month period? Yeah, is that still what you would be interested in doing?
Yes, I think we can still do it, and that means that we need to put our information in a much concise way and to be able to present it to them. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's true. And I've thought about that, which one of the reasons I ask is because that could take a decent amount of time.
Yes.
Which would pull some of the focus away from some of the prototyping things. So maybe just, yeah, I need to think about it more, or maybe you can think about it. Or if you do think about it, you can share your ideas with me. Yeah, so that's just something else on my mind, and how we would want to approach that.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Good. Thank you very much for meeting like this. This was convenient, and yeah, good to be able to discuss a few things.
Thank you too.
Yeah, hope everything goes well with your presentation.
Monday, what time?
I'm thinking maybe the afternoon. Would 1 o'clock be okay for next week's meeting?
Yeah, most of me, I want us to work with Vivian's time because she is pregnant. So, yeah. We have to know from Vivian what time she will be available, and we can plan to.
I'll check with her. Yeah, she has not been feeling well this week. She said that she was in the hospital yesterday or something. So she said she was feeling bad last weekend and early this week, and she's feeling better now. So hopefully she's okay, and yeah.
Okay.
But just
all right.
Cool. All right. We'll talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
You too.
See you Monday.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Bye.